kids. Welcome to the Capital Life Podcast. I am your host, Abby Pagood. This is where we talk about all the things that life brings, the good, the bad, and of course, the healthy. Kids, welcome to the Capital Life Podcast. I am your host, Abby Pagood. This is where we talk about all the things that life brings, the good, the bad, and of course, the healthy. Well, today's episode is called We Must Be Busy When the Corn is Ripe. And I'm just trying to think about various ways that we could think about this because I heard this quote and it actually made me think on like a little bit of a deeper scale because we go through the concept of like, okay, what happens when we are needing to do something, right? And when I first read this quote, thinking we must be busy when the corn is ripe, my first thought was, why? Like, how are we supposed to actually harvest the corn if we're too busy? We're going to miss our opportunity, right? And we're going to sit there and think about all the different ways where we can't get ahead and can't do what needs to be done. So before we dive in, did you guys know that we have gift cards for your loved ones? At Capital Health, we pride ourselves in taking care of our people and figured you should too. But sometimes it's a little awkward purchasing that special someone an exercise program to help them tone up their muffin top, or giving them a nutrition consultation to help them get their eating under control. No need to stress. Let the Capital Health gift card handle that for you and let your special someone choose what they need for their health and wellness needs. This episode of The Capital Life is brought to you by Madison's Closet. Support your youthful entrepreneurs, strive towards their dreams, and check out madisonsclosetboutique.com. Fashion speaks to every age by sharing unique and fun items at Madison's Closet via website or local events. Remember to stay unique with your own style. Please like and share and rate us on whichever platform you are listening to us on. It's how we start to really spread the message of good in the world that needs it so much right now. Let's think about this just a little bit differently. First of all, there once was an Italian poet, and I don't want to butcher his name, although he was famous in the 16th century, so I don't think he'll get too mad at me, and hopefully his spirit won't stalk me if I did not pronounce his name correctly. But there was an Italian poet called Torquato Tasso, and it's a very interesting name, and he came from a very troubling times, I think, for just a lot where he was surrounded. He was a famous Italian poet that really focused in and honed in a lot of the European. He was known in Europe for his poetry, especially during the times of like the First Crusade and Christians against Muslims and vice versa. So there was a lot of that religious war environment going on. And he was known for this one particular poem that was very iconic. And it was really focusing on, I believe it was called like Jerusalem Delivered. And it was really focusing on the Crusades and going into Jerusalem and all the wars and things that raised havoc. But as I dove in deeper to Torquato's like more extensive, it was interesting to see that there was a lot of systems of manipulation, confusion, control tactics, a lot of antitrust in his mentality, some of the experiences. He had a lot of connections with higher up, royalties and popes connection. And so he was in that kind of society of manipulation and politics and all of that back and forth. But I found it really intriguing that he put a lot of what was going on to paper. Like there would be a lot of different things. And one of his quotes is, "The day of fortune is like a harvest day. We must be busy when the corn is ripe." Now, I kind of looked into this, and it really is focusing on about opportunities are fleeting. When the time is right, we must seize the moment work diligently, and make the most of favorable circumstances, right? So I think when we really apply that to the things that we have experienced in our lifetime is I like to really pay attention to that energy that's around all of these opportunities that are presented, right? It's like all of a sudden you weren't even looking for a new job. And right when you were getting into your rhythm, you've been perfectly fine, you weren't thinking anything, then this huge opportunity presents itself. But a lot of times it's like we have to jump quickly onto that opportunity or we could possibly lose out. And so I start thinking about how that vibration, right? It's almost like a tidal wave that comes through of ups and downs, right? And it's like you can feel it when it's at its peak. There's excitement, there's intrigue, there's also a lot of confusion. There's trying to really nitpick and figure out like all the analytics that happen with this opportunity. Is it a good way to go? Is it a bad way to go? And so it's almost like we drive our mind crazy with the opportunity that has presented itself. But at the same time, it's like there's this massive wave of where it's like, oh, this is huge, this is huge, this is huge. And then it's like if we let it sit, sometimes it starts to wave out and then the energy might decrease and it might pass us by. So I thought it was really interesting to reflect on that, because if it's like opportunities are fleeting and we have to take the time when the time is right to act on something or an opportunity so that we don't miss it. I was raised by grandparents that always told me to sleep on it. Don't make any rash decisions. Don't do anything too quickly. You really have to think it through and make sure it's the right thing for you. But over the course of time, especially over the course of the years that I've been around, I've noticed that even though I still would sleep on it and I would take my time, I noticed that the energy of that opportunity started to dissipate, or even that the vibration of its awesomeness would kind of fizzle out. And it would still be exciting and it would still be great, but then it almost was like I was catching the tail end of the tidal wave, almost as if I had jumped too late. And I'm not saying that we should all just make grandiose impromptu decisions. What I'm saying is it's like really feeling into where the opportunity is taking you. What does it envision? Where is it going? Is it something that's going to distract you from the other like obstacles and goals that you have in your life, right? Like sometimes taking a big chance on where you're going next in your life is sometimes a leap of faith. Sometimes it's putting the work into the madness and then seeing where the outcome is. And with life and opportunity, it's always about taking the time to really put in what our skills are into what it is that we're creating, what it is that we are making into what we really are trying to reap within ourselves, our purpose, our desires, where we want to see things going, but also really seeking change in the world. Because most of us are doing something for a purpose, not just because it makes us feel good and fulfilled within the inside, but also because it makes a profound impact on others around us, right? So right now I'm noticing, there's been a lot of crazy shit going on in the world lately. Like, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but there's just been one day it's totally mellow, there's no activity, and the next day it's so insane. It's almost like you can't even keep up with the activities of the day. And so when we have all of this change, what I've been noticing and I've been witnessing is that people have been really waking up to their desires. They've really been waking up to what they're trying to do within their life. They're actually noticing, oh my gosh, this job does not fulfill me. It pays the bills, but it's keeping me away from my purpose. And so there's been a lot of people that have been either changing companies to which they work for because either it no longer aligns with them, or they're finding that they actually are doing a complete career change, even in their 50s and some of them 60s. So it's been very interesting to watch how people are waking up to their purpose, but also they're catching the wave of opportunity, and they can't really put it into words. They just say, I had this feeling, or I needed to take time. And some people have been very courageous in taking a step back and waiting for the opportunity to present itself instead of forcing it, right? Because sometimes when we force something into fruition, it becomes a muck. Like it's all over the place. Things go all like never come into exactly where they need to be. And then you're stuck with all of this extra chaos and you don't necessarily know what to do with it. Where on the other hand, you've got all of these people that are starting to realize that they need to take the time to pay attention to how their work is affecting them physically, how their stress levels are affecting how they think, their mentality, with going through different situations, even how it's affecting their relationships around them and how they're showing up in the picture. And so I find this as a very opportune time that when we have a life of so much ups and downs and craziness, we also have this beautiful opportunity to expand ourselves. But we have to be paying attention and testing the waters, per se, right? So if you think about corn, right? Corn is like it ripens super freaking fast, right? It takes forever to grow. You drive past cornfields, you see them flocking in the wind. It's sometimes, if anything, you're thinking, hell, holy crap, I can't wait for that corn on the cob on the grill because it tastes freaking good, right? Especially if you've even had, real corn from right off the farm like that day. It is amazing. And it's so good. You don't need salt. You don't need butter. You don't need anything on it. It literally is just so fresh and just amazing on its own. And you could just demolish one thing after the next. And what I find interesting is with corn is kind of one of those fickle things where it only has it's 1 minute it's not ripe, and within like a few days it's ripe and perfect. And so it's like one of those things where you kind of have to watch and test it over time. There's something about like a finger trick where you actually push the pressure onto the kernel itself, and if there's water or something, it's not ready, but then that means that you have like a couple day window. Now, I'm not a farmer, I'm not going to guide you through this, but what I'm finding is that you have to watch it a little bit closely because you will miss your opportunity. So for me, that says we need to expand and open ourselves up to the possibilities of opportunities around us and try and pay attention, right? So it's no different than if you walked out of your house and you're on your way to work and you see an eagle flying above, right? Maybe a couple hours later, an eagle lands on your car. Next thing you know, the next day, you see a whole flock of eagles in a random place that you may not have seen the eagles, right? Eagles are more of a spirit animal, the spirit animal that is trying to tell you to kind of look at things from a higher perspective, look down so you can see all the puzzle pieces and kind of put them together. It's also, a messaging of, the all-seeing eye, seeing things coming in from all different directions and being able to kind of see when they're going to line up. So I always like to say, pay attention to what the universe is telling you. Pay attention to where the opportunities are rising up. Sometimes we will have an idea in our head, and next thing you know, 2-3 days later, you end up having a conversation with somebody exactly about that subject. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to jump on it. It means that the opportunity presents itself, and then you get to kind of feel into, was that really something that was meant for me? Was that something that I needed to do? Like, what if one day you're talking about how fun it'd be to have an ice cream shop, and then the next day you're talking to somebody that is wanting to open an ice cream shop or looking for somebody to partner with or blah, blah, blah. And then here's the opportunity. Well, guess what? Then you get to consider, am I in the right place to even do that right now? Or am I just was that a cool idea? And then you have the choice, you have the free will to make those decisions on what comes next. So you can say, I would love to open the ice cream shop. Let's figure this out because that's a new direction I'd like to go and it provides purpose for me. Or you could sit there and be like, you know what, I kind of love that in dream world, but now that I put my, physical hat on and kind of let my brain wash through it, I don't really necessarily agree with opening an ice cream shop, but like, good luck to you. So it's one of those things where we have to at least open ourselves up to see what's being presented to us, what those opportunities are, even paying attention to different spirit animals that are around us, And when I say spirit animals, it's like, it's always the good omen, where whenever you have a red cardinal that kind of flies by or is like right outside your window, it's usually, ancestors that have passed that are looking in to see how you're doing. And they're just basically saying, hey, what's up? Just checking in on you. And it's kind of this nice little spiritual hug to give you support. Another one that I absolutely love is anytime I have like a butterfly that flies in path, I know that I'm headed in the right direction because I usually see them when I'm having certain conversations that are headed in the direction to which I've been working towards or where I'm going. And sometimes they present themselves in the most opportune time where I didn't even realize that was a subject that I needed to pay attention to.
If you find this helpful or insightful, don't forget to connect with us on Facebook and YouTube at Capitol Health. That's KAPITOL Health. You can also check us out at capitalhealth.com and subscribe to our newsletter and get wicked awesome updates whenever we come out with new blogs to keep you in the loop of your health and wellness.
But I do have a spin on this quote because, let's face it, I'm me. It happens. But what was interesting is as I was diving into the quote itself, I actually got a little bit of intel that took my brain to a different direction. And then I was curious as to why my brain went in that direction. And then that made me curious to look up the man behind the madness, right? So that's when I actually took the time to look up Torquay. I just want to make sure I get his name right. Torquay Tasso, right? So basically, that's when I looked him up and looked into a little bit of his history. And what I found really interesting is that his quote gave me something that he did not seem to have or experience in his life, or at least from, Wikipedia research, not saying they're the best researchers, but like at the same time, it's, it's internet. It's what we have, and I don't think I want to spend 30 minutes just looking into it. But what I found interesting is when I'm thinking about corn and I'm thinking about huge cornfields, right? And I'm thinking about the small percentage of a window to which the corn ripens, right? It's like you basically got like 2-3 days and it's gone, right? So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, if you have a cornfield, normally you have farmers that have the machines and then they can hustle and bustle and get everything and the timing of which they planted things and things of that nature. But at the same time, it's distribution of your corn supply, making sure that you're maximizing your efforts to get it out to people. I've had a friend of mine where they have corn and she's amazing. This corn is just absolutely tremendous. Everything on their farm is incredible. It's like their ranch is insane. It's so super cool. And what I found really interesting is that, when her father, harvests the corn, it's like here she'll come with huge bushels for friends and family and just start delivering it out. And it's like, okay, now it's like everybody's got to eat it quick too, because you don't want it to go bad because the corn's so good. And technically the corn's so good, you get to eat it every meal and you're fine. So what I find really interesting is that I was looking at this quote and I was interpreting it as you have an abundant supply of corn to which you have a very small window of opportunity to get it all harvested and dished out and where it needs to be. How are you supposed to do that by your one lonesome self? How is little old me supposed to get fields and fields of corn processed? No, you can't. It's not feasible. So when I'm sitting here thinking about, okay, the corn can't wait, We've got to get it done. Where are we going from here? How do you deal with the mass amounts of supply if you're not incorporating those around you? Where are people going in their life? We have it in a subconscious brain somewhere that we like somewhere sometime we told a story that we're supposed to do everything ourselves. We forget about the fact that we need people around us. We forget the fact that we need to utilize those around us. We need to actually magnify our relationships with those around us. We need to allow ourselves the ability to receive help and not allow our ego to take over and think that we are supposed to encompass all these great undertakings so far beyond ourselves. And so I found it really interesting that that was the messaging that I got from that quote. It wasn't about seizing opportunity. It was, for me, it was really focused around friendships and utilizing the people around us, utilizing all of our loved ones, letting them into our life, letting them share with our success, letting them share with our failures, letting them share with our opportunities. And even when we share our opportunities, what happens? We all level up together, which is huge. That's an even better opportunity. Is for all of us to expand at the same time. But at the same time, we're like all like huge tree branches helping lift the other one up, is growing and, thriving the best that we can. So I took it as that, which I found that I immediately was filled with, my heart went out for this poet, that here he wrote such an amazing quote that can make a huge, profound impact, not just off seizing opportunity, but also opening yourself up to collecting friendship and sharing your life, when he really did it. Because if you look at his backstory, it was a lot of confusion, a lot of distrust. Regularly they kept insinuating there was a lot of mental illness, or there was a lot of it. And I'm wondering how much of it was mental illness and how much of it was society and manipulation of norms and control tactics that are within our society. We've all been through the cliquey years of high school, or the pretentiousness of high school, right? And who fits in and who doesn't, and what opportunities, and he said, she said, and this person did this, and blah, 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 blah. We have all been there. We've all been in the environment to which, you had to figure out who your friends were. You had to figure out where your value was. You also had to figure out what was accurate and good for you versus other people. And so, it's interesting that when we start to find ourselves and we go through all of the self-discovery of who we are, which, by the way, is not just a one-day affair. It's like daily for the rest of your life, forever and ever. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's okay. But we really should start opening ourselves up to being able to receive love and support, joy, all types of things for ourselves around the people that we are with, sharing our lives together. Because when it comes down to it, sometimes we need the help. We need the help to be able to deal with the supply. We need the help to be able to grow in abundance. And when you do, you can actually expand greater. When you have the help, when you have it, what ends up happening? You can build a bigger field. You can produce more product, just so that you can share what you've created, what you've grown, and also reap what you sowed. Thanks for joining me today on The Capital Life, where we talk about all the things. Join me next Saturday as we talk about many attempts to harvest what has never been planted.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube and Facebook at Capital Health. That's Kapitol Health. Please share with your friends and family. The Capital Life is available on all podcasting platforms except Pandora. Our goal at The Capital Life is to provide a safe place to get information when it comes to your health and wellness, especially when dealing with all of life's phases. Remember to take care of yourself, because you're somebody's everything.